Hey, what's up guys, it's Renaldo here. So this video is going to focus on blatant racial discrimination in South Africa in 2026. Now, the irony is that these organizations, businesses, associations will gladly brag about this in their newsletters when they talk about transformation or triple BEE. But then when people take them on in a public domain and accuse them of racial discrimination, then they come out with press statements and accuse these people of blatantly lying. Now, this video is going to focus specifically on one of many cases where this takes place. Now, I'm talking about the Johannesburg Society of Advocates that has come out and condemned Advocate Mark Oppenheimer for going onto the SABC and stating what is factual. Now, we're going to delve into that because I don't understand how you can have newsletters and your application forms that talk about these things, and then when an advocate actually calls it out, then you try and hide it. How can you hide it when you brag about it on your newsletters and even on your application form? Now, this has got everything to do with pupillage. Now, for those of you that don't know what pupillage is, in simple terms, it's that last year that you have to do under a seasoned and experienced advocate, and once you have done that, then you can become an advocate. So there is a limit in how many people can be accepted, and there's also the restraint that if you do not go through one of these processes, you can't become an advocate. So if there is racial discrimination taking place in the admissions, then there's a possibility that if you don't adhere to what their requirements are, that you can never become an advocate. And this is exactly what Mark Oppenheimer focused on. So I'm going to show you the interview that got him into trouble with the JSA that caused them to release a press statement with regards to that. Before we do that though, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. The overwhelming majority of you aren't subscribed, and it's free. Doesn't cost anything. So whilst you smash the subscribe button, also smash the like button and share this video far and wide so that we can get the word out and what's happening in South Africa. All right, let's have a look at what caused all of this massive uproar from the JSA. All right, so this is also like an hour-long interview, and I think that if you would like to get to the bottom of everything that was discussed here, I'll put the link to this SABC interview in the description below. But I'm just going to focus on the aspect that got Mark Oppenheimer into trouble, and I want you to listen very carefully to what he has to say here, and then tell me exactly why you think what he's saying here is wrong.
The Constitution does speak about fair discrimination, right? A fair and unfair discrimination. And I think you would agree, if you look at the number of black lawyers entering the profession at the lower levels, you see a number of them in the lower ranks. You see those numbers dwindle as they start to move up into the higher echelons. Does that not in itself indicate to you that there's a problem with transformation at the highest levels of law firms?
Before he even gets in here, like, it's amazing how people are putting their own one and one together. Like, maybe some of those professionals are just happy to be where they are. But now, because the numbers dwindle, they automatically assume it's because of a lack of transformation. I mean, you know, it's like, this is what I'm talking about when they force transformation when it isn't needed. Because if you can study for 4 or 5 years and become a lawyer or be close to becoming an advocate, I don't think that the previously disadvantaged tag applies to you, because if you are able to study for 4 or 5 years, you're well off. And then once you've studied and you get your degrees, then how can you still be referred to as previously disadvantaged when you are in the top 10% of this country of people who have degrees, people that can earn an honest living? It doesn't make any sense. But anyway.
Firstly, we should look at what the Constitution says. So Section 9 says that you cannot discriminate on the grounds of race, but that you can have measures to assist those who are previously disadvantaged.
Yes.
So it's non-racial in character if you look at Section 9. So you could ask a particular individual, were you disadvantaged by the wrongs of the past? The mistake is to assume that because people have the same amount of melanin in their skin as those who are access advantaged, that they're interchangeable. There's an enormous difference between someone who endured the racist discriminatory policies of the apartheid government and someone who is 25 years old now and happens to sort of share the same hue. So there's not that fact that you can have.
So you don't give any credence to the idea of kind of inherited oppression, the remnants of oppression that remain with a young black person.
Okay, so then let's talk about the remnants of oppression with me as an Afrikaner when the British did the concentration camps during the Second Anglo-Boer War. I mean, this is how idiotic this whole notion is of, previously disadvantaged. Every single race in the world has at some point in time been previously disadvantaged. We can't all be this perpetual victims and seeking victimhood for the rest of our lives. It's just absurd. Anyway.
In the modern day.
I think you need to ask that on an individual basis. So I think you need to find out, and that's what the Constitution looks at, is were you disadvantaged? And maybe there's an argument to say, well, look, given the circumstances of my parent, I have endured some of that myself. But it's clearly not the case that all people who are part of the same racial groups are in the same economic category or at the same levels of disadvantage. I will say this as well, which is that.
And here we go. This is what got the JSA, which is the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, to release a press statement.
The Johannesburg Bar in particular has taken a highly racially charged way in terms of its admissions process. So they will take in 100 pupils every year, and they have said that they will cap the number of white male advocates at 5 out of 100. So, and you mentioned this point that you have a lot of young black lawyers who will enter the profession and then not prosper. And so you must ask why. Is it because the state, when employing those lawyers, fails to pay them? There's a systemic problem with attorneys and advocates who do work, let's say for the Road Accident Fund or for other state entities, who just never get paid and they go bankrupt. So one way to fix that problem would be to ensure that they're adequately paid, as opposed to, having these sort of social engineering measures driven on the grounds of race.
So it goes on, but that little statement there is what caused the problems. So that is what Mark Oppenheimer said about the Johannesburg Society of Advocates, and then that caused them to release a press statement. And trust me, this press statement, when you look at it, you wonder, how did these individuals get to the level of being advocates if this is their type of reasoning? Let's have a look. All right, Johannesburg Society of Advocates for immediate release on the 22nd of May 2026. The Johannesburg Society of Advocates has noted recent public comments made by one of its members, Advocate Mark Oppenheimer, concerning the JSA's pupillage admissions process in an interview with the SABC. In the interview in question, Advocate Mark Oppenheimer described the admissions process at the Johannesburg Bar as a highly racially charged system and stated that the JSA has implemented a quota system which caps the number of white male pupils admitted each year at 5 out of every 100 candidates. These statements are false. Okay, tell us more. The JSA presently admits approximately 80 pupils annually into its pupillage program. The admission process does not employ any quota system which limits the admission of white male applicants, whether to 5 candidates or otherwise. The admission process is conducted through a structured assessment model involving both paper-based evaluation and interviews. Applicants are scored across a range of criteria, while points are... So here we go. While points are allocated in recognition of historical disadvantage and the constitutional imperative of transformation, this forms only one component of a broader evaluative framework. You literally, in your 4th technically paragraph, admitted that there is racial discrimination that takes place. Like, what a statement. Like, whether it's a little bit or whether it's a lot, racial discrimination is racial discrimination. I don't understand why people want to tap dance around the topic of racial discrimination. If you give somebody more points because of their race and other people less points because of their race, that is racial discrimination. I don't know why it is so difficult to understand. But anyway, indeed, many of the criteria traditionally associated with academic achievement and professional advancement inevitably favor applicants who have historically enjoyed greater access to educational opportunity, professional networks, financial support, and social mobility. The admissions process therefore seeks to evaluate candidates holistically and fairly within the broader realities of South African society. 32 years after we have a democracy, these policies are still being implemented. How is somebody that was able to study for 4 to 5 years and apply for their pupillage disadvantaged? How is that possible? But yet, even when everybody has studied their 4 or 5 years, then when you really want to become an advocate, you still have to face discrimination. Even though somebody that studied 4 or 5 years, I would say is equal to anybody else that has studied 4 or 5 years, but not according to the JSA. Go figure. They still give you extra points if you are the right race. That is racial discrimination 101. I don't know why you have released all of this when an actual, like how many pages? 3 pages, I believe. I'm not going to read through all of this nonsense because they've already admitted to it. You can go and read this by just, I'm assuming, Googling it. I might link it in the description below as well. But it says here, the JSA does not apologize for placing significant value on transformation. Okay. Well, then why are you saying that what he's saying is bullshit when you just acknowledged it? Transformation is a constitutional imperative rooted in the lived history of exclusion from the bar and the broader legal sector. Moreover, transformation itself is not synonymous with exclusion, and any insinuation that white males need not apply is demonstrably untrue and inconsistent with the actual composition of the Johannesburg bar. Okay, quick question. This is your application form, right? For next year. Information for applicants for pupillage. And as you can see, it's the JSA over here. Now, if you just go and quickly look at, I think it's point 20 over here. These criteria and processes are designed to promote the transformation of the JSA. So you're acknowledging right over here in point 20 of the application of pupillage that transformation is really important to you. 21. The JSA aspires through the application of its transformation policy to achieve an inclusive and diverse membership. To that end, you are required to state your nationality and race. And you are invited, although not obliged, to state your gender and any disability. So you have to state your race, but you don't have to state your gender or disability. And this literally is information for the applications for pupillage for 2027. So on the one hand, you are telling us that, oh no, you're not doing it. And then secondly, you're saying, but we adhere to transformation and we are very proud of that. And then in your actual application forms, you say that we judge this on a transformation policy that we have, and you have to tell us what race you are. Why? Why are you not just acknowledging the fact that you are discriminating based on race? I mean, it's been 32 years since we become a democracy. In 2026, you are discriminating against people that have studied for 4 to 5 years and now have to do their pupillage. The question you have to ask yourself is, what real disadvantage is there between white, colored, black, and Indian people that have studied for 4 to 5 years, have paid hundreds of thousands of rands to get to that point, and now the last hurdle, for 1 year to become an advocate, you want to discriminate against them based on their race. When I think it's quite obvious that nobody that has studied for 4 to 5 years and want to do their pupillage has got any real disadvantage that they can claim when they've had the opportunity to study for that long and the privilege to get to that point with education. So ultimately, you are Now, combing with a fine comb to look for some oppression or some previously disadvantaged situations here so that you can stick it to the white people once again. 32 years into our democracy, in 2026, in actual fact, 2027, because on their application form, they are stating for next year that we are going to apply our transformation policy. Now, before I end the video, though, Mark Oppenheimer clapped back with a solid piece on the rational standard. I will also link that in the description below. I'm not going to go through all of that, but I'm just going to point out some of the obvious things that he pointed out that states, why are you releasing a press statement on me when this is all common knowledge? Let's have a look. Thanks to the Rational Standard for giving Mark Oppenheimer an opportunity to tell us his side of the story. The bar cannot deny that race is part of its admissions policy from Mark Oppenheimer. He says here, the Johannesburg Society of Advocates has accused me of spreading misinformation. The chair, Don Mahone, SC, said that my description on case in point of the pupillage admissions process as highly racially charged is false. The JSA says that it does not operate a quota system or impose a cap on the number of white male pupils admitted to the bar, but the same statement then confirms the central point. Applicants are scored through a structured assessment model in which points are allocated in recognition of historical disadvantage and the constitutional imperative of transformation. It also says the JSA does not apologize for placing significant value on transformation. So he pretty much says what I said here, and here you can see in 2020, out of 80 pupils, African women, 33. African men, 27. Indian women, 6. Indian men, 2. Colored women, 1. Colored men, 2. White women, 8. And then white men, 1. As you can see right there. And then there was also, I believe, and he goes on and you can read it here, but here he says, race classification and membership selection is also entertained by groups at the bar. In 2017, the Bridge Group of Advocates considered adopting an overtly racial preference system for admitting new members. Those deemed white or Indian would be heavily discriminated against under this system. So this is the scoring sheet that they wanted to implement, and then you get points out of 20 for being a specific race and a gender. I mean, think about that. You studied for 4 or 5 years, you go and sit, and before you even open your mouth in this interview, you're already scored out of 20 based on your race and your gender. I mean, and this is for people that all studied for 4 or 5 years, but you still get points deducted. I mean, if you're a white male, you get 0 out of 20 points. I mean, really? And then you still want to argue. It's no secret that the JSA obviously values transformation policies, values the fact that they discriminate against people based on the color of their skin, and they will gladly talk about this in their newsletters on how they've hit their transformation targets. But when they get called out by one of their own, Advocate Mark Oppenheimer, then they quickly come out and say, oh no, we don't do that. All the evidence points to you doing that, and then you are lying to the public. You are discriminating against people based on their race in 2026. Own it. Own it. Especially after you in your own press statement said that you are very proud of it. Don't say it doesn't happen when it's very clear that it does happen. And how sick must you not be, specifically as people within the legal framework, to want to still double down on these type of things? This is what really gets to me. This is not a first-year student that needs upliftment and help, because perhaps his parents are poor because of the apartheid and being previously disadvantaged, right? We are talking about people that have already studied, graduated, did a post-grad, and now they are trying to be the best in their field. And then at that point, they still want to apply racial quotas. How does that make sense? That is like getting a bunch of CEOs in the room and then telling them, oh, listen, we are going to decide which of the CEOs can join our club, but we're also going to apply, previously disadvantaged points and transformation points, Everyone in that room is well off. Everybody in that room are multimillionaires, but then they still want to play these stupid little games. That is how I see what the JSA is trying to do here. They are trying to transform something by discriminating against white, young, potential advocates. Because let's be real, how old would an advocate be? 25, 26 years old? We are 32 years into our democracy. So the young potential advocates that they are discriminating against, firstly, weren't even born during apartheid, but secondly, had no hand in it. And now we are at this point where, you were born into a white skin, you are a male, so unfortunately, we'll have to deduct some points from you and make some space for a black or colored or Indian individual purely because that is their race. Tell me how that is fair. Tell me how that's not racial discrimination. JSA, shame on you, first for applying these things, but then for coming out and talking absolute bullshit and going after Mark Oppenheimer after you yourself in your own press statement acknowledge that you are discriminating against people based on the color of their skin. What the hell? Anyway, that's all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. However, if you'd like to contribute financially to this channel, you can do so by clicking on the $ below and choosing an amount. Or you can become a member to this channel that comes with its own perks. And the way that you can see all of this information is by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.